Good morning. I'm honored to introduce His Excellency Phung, the Ambassador of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam to the United States. Ambassador Phung was appointed as ambassador in October of 2007. Ambassador Phung is a career diplomat and has previously served as the first deputy foreign minister. That's the second ranking official in the Vietnam's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also has served as the deputy foreign minister and assistant foreign minister, as well as chairman of both the Committee on Border Affairs and the National Commission for the United Nations Education, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. During his 37-year career as a diplomat, Ambassador Phung has been posted to places such as England, China, Indonesia, and has served as Vietnam's ambassador to Thailand. Ambassador Phung graduated from the College of Diplomacy of Vietnam in 1971, and he speaks excellent English and fluent French, but I cannot vouch for that. I don't speak French. He is married to Nguyen Thai Nan and has 2 sons. Please welcome Ambassador Phung to Brigham Young University.
Good morning to everybody. I think you have to excuse me because my throat has some problems since I arrived in Utah. Because the warm welcome facilitated to me and the good sentiments that the people of Utah I met since last night. So I try to speak as good as I can. I have a little correction because Eric said that I'm speaking fluent English. I'm afraid that I'm not going to do that as you expect. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank the David Kennedy Center for inviting me here today to talk with you. I have only 50 minutes. I will share with you, I'll take about around 30 minutes or less. If I jump over 30, please remind me. I'll come back. And the rest of the time, I expect to take some of your questions. And as I told to the director of the center that any question I can answer, I will do. Those I cannot answer, I will come back to you later on. So don't worry, pose any question you like. The first thing I'd like to say that as the representative of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam to the United States, it is my great honor. And I feel it's very heavy responsibility because I came at the time the relation between the two countries are developing marvelously. At the time that Vietnam government needs its ambassador to make known about the country, to make know what we were and what we are doing, and what we are looking ahead. Vietnam, maybe a number of you here have been to Vietnam. I don't think many, 1 or 2. Eric was there in 1995. It's 13 years. Many things has changed. And those who have not been there, some might not know Vietnam, where is Vietnam and what Vietnam look like. In the past, people know about Vietnam as a warring country. It's true. Because in our history, a little bit longer than the history of the United States. We are about 3,000-4,000 years. You are 230 years. We were dominated by Chinese feudalists for over 1,000 years. And after that, they keep coming back to Vietnam again and again. In the modern time, we were colonized by the French for over 100 years. By 1945, we gained our independence. And again, we started the war against the French for 9 years, until 1954. We thought we could have some peace time to construct the country. Not yet. We suffer another war. And most of you here relates to it. That's U.S.-Vietnam War until 1995, when the U.S. withdrew, Vietnam reunited. We thought we could actually enjoy peace from there. But unluckily, we got another 2 wars. The war with Pol Pot, the genocide in Cambodia on the border, and the war with China in 1979. So it's understandable that people around the world who doesn't know much about Vietnam could think that Vietnam is a warring country. We like to fight, we like to attack other people. We don't want to have peace, don't want to have economy developed. But it's not true. Since 1975, after a long spell of war, our country almost devastated. The country was divided for 30 years. Poverty, hunger took place everywhere, all over the country. Our people and the leaders of the country thought that we must do something to make Vietnam as a nation, an independent nation, a prosperous country, a people that enjoying high living standard as the other people in the world. And we did. In the last over 20 years, we open our door, renovate our economy, and up to this moment, I am pleased to tell you that economically, we are one of the rising countries in South Asia. We enjoy growth rate annually from 7 to 8.5% since 1992. And our people enjoy increasingly better and better living standard. We are the first in the world that fulfilled the United Nations Millennium Goals in erasing poverty and hunger. From 56%, 56% in 2001. Now the poverty is only 15%, even less. And we have opened up our diplomatic relations with 193 countries all over the world, and enjoying trade and economic relations with nearly 90 countries and territories. I mean, territories means Hong Kong, Taiwan. They are not countries, they are territories. We intend to double our GDP by 2010, counting from 2005. And by 2020, we intended to build Vietnam as industrial country with the level of standard living ranking in the middle of the whole world. It's not easy to do that with a country of long war and devastation enormous and long time to cure. But our people, our government are determined to do so. On political and social aspects, I can inform you that Vietnam is, that is the call from our friends all over the world, the most stable and security country in Southeast Asia. If you look around Southeast Asia, it's proved because Thailand is a good country where I was ambassador when I was in big trouble of politics, relations, Myanmar, Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines as well. And thanks to that, we can secure our sustained development of economy. We can secure huge investment from abroad. This year only, 2008, up to August, we have attracted $45 billion on direct investment, many of which come from the United States. We have great trade, cooperation, and economic and investment cooperation with foreign countries. And our people are so happy to see that the country is developing, to see the leadership's taking the country forward, to see that Vietnam enjoy prestige from the world. We assessed to most of the major economic, political, finance organization in the world. We assessed to WTO the year before last. We joined in ASEAN, APEC, the ASEAN, this Asia-Europe Cooperation. And from beginning of this year, we were elected as the non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. We are working very closely with the United States because at the meeting table, Vietnam always sits next to the United States, you and we. So we can say that we are relying on our own forces, but at the same time, we are trying to reach to the international and regional cooperation. And thanks to that, in the last 20 years, our economy gets stronger, our political position in the world being heightened, and we are respected. In return, we respect all the countries, all the international communities, leaders and people. By telling you that, I also must admit that from beginning of 2008, we faced some difficulties in economic development due to rising price of oil and food, due to the weakening U.S. dollar, because most of our trade rely on the U.S. dollars. And due to some of our own weakness, we suffer a little bit on inflation. We intended to achieve growth rate this year, 2008, by 8.5%. But by this time, we have to review our goal And we think that from 6.5 to 7 is more appropriate. We are trying to solve the problems that we are facing, and can assure that we can do. Inflation in Vietnam is high at the moment, but has been under control. There are two things that we are strong. Oil price, though it is rising, but we have oil and gas. So if it rise in importing, it's also rising in exporting. We have a lot of food. We are the second biggest rice exporter in the world. So food price rising, but domestically we have enough food and food reserve. You don't worry about that. With these two strong elements, we think we can overcome the temporary difficulties and challenge and keep taking the country economy forward. You can explain that though we are having some difficulties in economic aspect like financial issue, the inflation, but more and more foreign investors are coming to Vietnam to put the money for business, because we understand that they can assess what Vietnam is doing and what Vietnam is going to be in the next 2 years, 2009, 2010. So those who have come to Vietnam, long or near, please come back and see how Vietnam is doing. We can do it good. A lot of good things we have done, and a lot of good things we can talk about. If the center can dispatch your students to Vietnam, let me know. I will ask my people at home to take care of them, to let them know what they want to know about Vietnam, its people, its culture, its economy. It's okay. I still got some time. Now let me turn to U.S.-Vietnam relation. As I mentioned to you that we try to forget the past. Forget is not the correct word. We put the past aside, looking forward and build the future for the common interests. We suffer the war. We both suffer. We are not going to talk about right or wrong about the war. We should talk about how we are going to heal the wounds of the war, mend the relations, and make the relation be in the interest of the people of Vietnam and people of the United States. 2006, when my president was here and I visited the United States, he talked with President Bush, and two presidents agreed that the governments of Vietnam and the United States have to try their best and work as hard as they can to promote relations. When I presented my credentials to President Bush in January this year, he told me that we were enemies in the past. Now we are natural allies. I agree with him. War is war. War is the past. Don't forget it. Put it aside. Remember it and avoid the wrongdoing that we committed in the past. We normalized relations with each other in 1995. And in the last 13 years, I can tell you this, because I served in the foreign aspects for almost 40 years. We normalized, set up relations with many countries. But the development of Vietnam-U.S. relations in the last 13 years is some sort of a model. It's the fastest development in the bilateral relation in such a short time. And we can tell you that now we are enjoying the best time in our bilateral relations. Politically, in the last 4 years, our leaders met each other annually. 2005, our Prime Minister visited the United States, having a well-known joint statement marking the new echo of bilateral relation. 2006, my president was here. At the end of 2006, President Bush visited Vietnam. 2007, 2008, last June, my Prime Minister visited the United States. Again, pushing all aspects cooperation between the two countries. We are having good relations not only in the political but also on the security aspects. We have excellent relations on security and stability of the region. We join hand in hand to fight against terrorism and other non-traditional crimes that occur all around the world. We are having good military cooperation. It sounds much strange to you, but in the war, Pentagon is where the policy of war in Vietnam was produced. But last June, when my Prime Minister was here, my Prime Minister visited Pentagon, having a good talk with Secretary Robert Gates, discussing how and what we are going to work together and cooperate on the military aspect. On the security and intelligence, we are enjoying the good relations between Vietnamese security forces and CIA, FBI, and domestic security forces of the United States. So we can say that political and security, the two, are working and cooperating very well. In the last meeting of my Prime Minister and President Bush, the two sides agreed that Vietnam and U.S. set up a strategic dialogue on political, security, and military. And the first section of this talk will take place in Hanoi in coming October. Could you imagine that the two warring parties in the past now talking on strategic, talking on political, talking on military, talking on security cooperation? That's why I said it is the fastest development of relation that we enjoy. On economic and trade investment cooperation, I'd like to inform you that U.S. is the biggest market of Vietnamese export. And we enjoy good receptance of the U.S. consumers. Of course, there are a number of things that we need to work together but it is the future there, prospect for Vietnamese products going to the United States. The U.S. exporting to Vietnam is not much in the past. We enjoy the surplus. But let me tell you this. 2008, U.S. export to Vietnam increased 107% in compared with last year. It's a good thing. We buy more and more from the United States. We buy machine, we buy equipment, we buy Boeings, and many other things. Let me inform you that we have signed contracts to buy 12 new model of Boeing 787 to strengthen our contingent of flights to connecting Vietnam with the United States. On investment, the potential of U.S. business people are huge. But by this time, U.S. ranked about 5th or 4th among the biggest investors for the investors to Vietnam. And I know that U.S. business people can do a lot, much more than that. And I promised myself that I will do my best to make U.S. become the number one foreign investor to Vietnam. You can do that. On the trade in general, let me compare this. By 2001, when we signed bilateral trade agreement between Vietnam and United States, our trade volume by that time was $1.5 billion US. But after 6 years, to 2007, the volume increased about 600%. And it keeps increasing. And my trade council said that next year we would like to have the volume by 15 or even over 15 billion US dollars. It means 10 times compared with 2001 when we signed the trade agreement between the two countries. I'm very comfortable with the trend and prospect of trade, economic, and investment cooperation between Vietnam and U.S. At present, there's about 1,000 U.S. companies, big, medium, and small, having business and enjoying interest in Vietnam. The number will increase. I know that Utah also have some companies enjoying good business in Vietnam. We are ready to receive you more and more to come. On education, just talking to you here, I must mention that education is one of highest priority of Vietnam government. In the last 20 years, we have done a good job. But in the next 20 years, if we want to sustain our development, we need our students, our people, our workforce be higher educated, high trained. Because the further you develop, the better intellectuals and education know-how you need. We look around the world and we see U.S. is a place where we can learn a lot and can cooperate effectively in education aspects. We lay stress on this, and this year the two governments agreed to set up a task force on education cooperation. This task force will work and review and recommend what the two governments should do to spend money and invest to promote the cooperation on education. We are going to work together. The first meeting of this task force was in Hanoi about 3 days ago, and they talk about a lot of things. I was not informed yet. I was a member of that task force, so I cannot come. Talk about the setting up the U.S. Vietnam University in Vietnam, setting up training or educating the postgraduate, graduate students, and sending U.S. students to Vietnam in exchange of Vietnamese students to the United States, and so on. A lot of things. We are having now about over 6,000 Vietnamese students in the United States, all over 50 states. I'd like to let you know that my government intends to send more, maybe 10 or even more, over 10,000 Vietnamese students here, and thousands of teachers, professors to be further trained or retrained in the United States. On science and technology, that's a good thing to do. We learn a lot from the United States because we know, and everybody in the world know that the United States, the strongest point is science and technology. We are having some concrete cooperation with the U.S., and we have discussed with the U.S. on how we can gain assistance from the U.S. on this aspect, and how we can exchange with the U.S. on technology and science. It's a long way to go. It's good that the two governments seem to be resolved to work together. I'm not quite sure because I don't know who will be the next president of the United States. So the present one determined. The next one we have to watch. But I think they will work together because let me come back to the NATO ally phase. We are allies because the need of the interests of the two people. We are allies because the change of world, the change of circumstance, environment in the region, in the world. So if that is the common interest, the future will require us to work together for what we are aiming at, what we are sharing together. I would like to stop here. I have a lot of things to talk, but if I got any question, I'd be happy to answer. That's 26 minutes.
We have a wireless microphone. If you'd please raise your hand and then tell us your name and what you're studying. If you have a question for the ambassador.
My name is Mike Latanat Sangchen. I'm a history major. And I was just curious about your relations with Laos, how it is politically and economically. So that's my question.
With Laos? Okay, I'll make a brief here. Laos is our next door neighbor. We work together historically. Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia occupied by French for 100 years. The people, three countries, fought together for the liberation of their respective countries. Now Laos living next to us. We had a good relation since long time ago, and now we are enjoying the excellent relation. I can say to you that with foreign countries all over the world, Laos, Vietnam is the best and most important relations that Vietnamese government and people have to take care of, both on economic, political, and security. Anyone else?
My name is Brad Masters. I'm a political science major. Similar question along the same lines. Relations with Cambodia. I know there's been tension in the past. Just wondering what your take on that is.
Yeah, we again, like Laos, we had an excellent relation in the past when we suffered under the French and U.S. for some time. It's different from Laos because we suffer the problem with the Khmer Rouge. It's a very interesting thing. When our people ask to go to Cambodia to wipe out the Khmer Rouge, the genocidal regime, we were blamed, we were criticized, we were protested, we were embargoed. Everybody by that time during the 70s understood that Pol Pot, the Khmer Rouge, the genocide. But because of politics, they blame Vietnam for invading Cambodia instead of recommending or praising Vietnam for wiping out the genocide regime. And now, those who criticized and protested us in the past are supporting the international trial against the Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge leaders. It takes them many years to realize what they have done in the past. Now we are having good relations with Cambodia. Let me tell you this. They might be different from society and social infrastructure. We are different establishment of social and political framework. Cambodia is now the multilateral party government. But the two countries need to work together, live and help each other together. Because we realize that if anything happens in Vietnam, it affects Cambodia directly. If any problem happens to Vietnam and to Cambodia, it seriously impacts Vietnam. So we have to work together, live together, but at the same time to talk how to avoid or solve the problem that emerge together for the interest of the two countries.
Okay. If America's economy were to take a significant downturn, how do you see Vietnam as being self-sufficient? Or do you see it as being self-sufficient without a strong American economy?
The American economy is in big trouble now. I think that the two candidates for the president have to postpone the talk on the television, come back to Washington, D.C. for the discussion of buyout, this danger. I must say that U.S. economy is the strongest in the world. If it's getting better and better, the whole world enjoy it. If we get some problem, it affects the world. Vietnam's the same. Not as in the past, we are isolated. So up and down, crisis or not crisis in U.S. economy is not very much affects Vietnam. But now it is, and it is very seriously. particularly on the financial issues. But we understand that every country has to try its best. Firstly, to safeguard itself from the negative effects outside coming in. And secondly, we had to try to make ourselves stronger and stronger internally so that you can cope or limit the negative effects from other side. But I can tell you that because of the financial issue in U.S., American, and dollar weakening, the inflation in Vietnam is some of the things that can solve from that situation. But we are integrating in the region and in the world, but not as much as other countries, because we are still developing country. So the effects of the negative development in U.S., yes, there is, but not as much as with Japan, Europe, Russia, or other countries. We try to get out that and respect U.S. economy and financial issue could be solved so that we can enjoy a better environment for development.
Russell Franson, political science major. Thank you for coming. Quick question. What is the perception of the common Vietnamese people of the Bush administration, positive or negative, and how does that differ from your perception or your president, prime minister's perception?
President Bush, President Clinton, or coming President Obama or McCain are U.S. president, all of them, and elected by the U.S. government and people. So the Vietnamese people respect and fully respect the presidency of the United States, elected by the Americans. Due to the interest that the two countries share, we don't mind who will be there. Maybe the steps different from each other a little bit, but the strategy, the policy of the U.S. towards Vietnam, I think will remain the same. President Bush, we don't have the command on that because under the 8 years of President Bush, Vietnam-U.S. relations developed excellently. The Democratic President Clinton was the one who normalized relations with Vietnam. And having a hard work to push it ahead. So that development of relations with U.S. and Vietnam with some sort of continuation from president to president. There's not much change. We have some differ with the President Bush in our relation. But U.S.-Vietnam differs is something that's natural. Husband and wife can differ. A lot of quarrels sometimes depart. U.S.-Vietnam gone through a long war, a lot of nasty things happen. It's natural that we differ each other. But we are having the common idea. We are sharing the common interest in developing relations. So leave the differ there. Try to identify what is the difference. And step by step, we minimize the difference. And trying to develop the agreements for the sake of the future development. If you ask me to comment or criticize what President Bush done in the past, I'm not going to do that. I will seek his permission. If I can do, I criticize you publicly, and he agree, I will to come back and talk to you. Not today.
That's Bryce. I'm a political science major, and I was just wondering, if I were to visit Vietnam, what would you suggest that I go see?
I beg your pardon?
If I were to visit Vietnam, what would you suggest that I visit and go see while I was there?
You haven't been to Vietnam yet. As youngsters in the world, they all want to know everything in the world. And they know that they cannot do that, but they try to do. You've been to Vietnam, let's come to Vietnam to see. You're having good relations with the U.S., we can talk with the U.S., you can do something for the U.S., you can come and talk with the people there. The best season is the fall in Vietnam. September, October is the best time that you can come. Vietnam is a smaller country, geographically not as big as U.S. We have long spelled the country about almost 2,000 miles from north to south. But from east to west, some places only 30 miles. So we can go from north to south or back south to north. You can jump in the middle of the country. You see a lot of things to see there. And you will see how Vietnamese people react. Let me tell you a story. This is 1 to 2 minutes. After the war, we had about 3 million people died or missing in action. And there's about 500 U.S. GIs missing in action in Vietnam. We didn't have much to do to search for our MIA. But we understand the feeling of the American people. Those who lost their relatives, sons, husband, daughter. So we started since late 80 to find the MIA, missing in action American, for the American people, while our 3,000 million missing in action is still there. We didn't do that. Not because we don't respect the death and missing in action of Vietnamese, but the Vietnamese family, in some extent, get used with the losing of the relatives. American family is different. So we told ourselves that work with the U.S. government to find as much as we possibly can the missing in action of MIA to U.S. And the cooperation has been excellent. We were highly appreciated by veterans, by families, and U.S. government with different presidents in the White House. Now we are still having about over 300,000 Vietnamese missing in action. They are working hard. And we ask the Americans to help us, giving the archives, the file of the missing in action if they have. And we agreed last June, when my Prime Minister was here, agreed to let the U.S. ship to go to our sea area together with the Vietnamese to search for the American missing in action under the sea. And it will start very soon. On the warship of U.S. have been visiting Vietnam ports annually in the last 5 years. You asked more, but we said, take it easy. Maybe more, but not now. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.